When you start building your dream computer, the first part that you need is the CPU. The CPU is the soul of your entire system, the most essential part you need to investigate in before anything else. And that's why knowing which one you should buy is really important. In today's video, we will take a look at the best 5 gaming CPUs you can purchase in 2020. As always, the links to all the CPUs shall be provided in the description below. Let's get right into the video. Number 5. AMD Ryzen 5 2600X. Before we even get started with number 1, we would like to issue a word of caution. CPU builds are highly personalized. To cover most of them, we shall try and include in our list the best CPUs at different price ranges. That is why we want to start things off with the AMD Ryzen 5 2600X. A theme you will see with the Ryzen AMD series is the large number of cores and threads they come with, especially when we are talking about the older Zen 1 architecture. The Ryzen 5 2600X comes with a whopping 6 cores and 12 threads. The CPU is positioned as a budget processor, which will support most games at high-quality settings. You won't be able to play the newest titles at ultra settings, but with the older ones, like from 2019, you will be able to run them comfortably. The Ryzen 5 2600X comes with a base clock of 3.6 GHz, and it does give you the option to max clock at 4.2 GHz. The CPU supports DDR4 RAM and draws in power equivalent to 95 watts. On some days, especially when you would be putting the cores through a lot, the CPU could reach temps of above 95 degrees. We know exactly what you're thinking. Why recommend a mid-2018 earlier gen Ryzen when this video is about gaming in 2020? But here's the thing. Unless you're looking to top line with the best of the best, CPUs just like the Ryzen 2600X won't be the smoothest or the best with the games in 2020, but they will get the job done. At $166, this CPU rakes in as one of the best to start off with a budget build. Number 4. AMD Ryzen 3 3300X. Another budget option for another AMD featuring a cheaper cost, but with no compromise on the performance. The thing about AMD is that if you're looking to game with some restraints on the pocket, AMD has endless options for you. AMD calls this the fastest Ryzen 3 processor for gaming, and rightly so. With the Ryzen 3 3300X, the focus is purely on gaming. Unlike the previous AMD 2600 on our list, which is built for overall performance and other tasks like video and photo editing, this AMD 3300 shines truly as a gaming CPU. The CPU features 4 cores and 8 threads, with a base clock of 3.8 GHz and a max boost of 4.3 GHz. The 3300 comes unlocked, so you do have an option to overclock it. As a feature of the newer Zen core architecture this AMD features, it requires lesser cores and lesser threads than the older models like the 2600. This also means that the CPU takes in less power, to be precise only 65 watts, without losing even a little bit of performance. The processor was released only recently in mid-2020, which means that you can be assured that it will run most of the newer games smoothly and without any problems. At a cost of around $120, this beast of a CPU is an absolute steal for your budget gaming build. Number 3. Intel Core i5 9500F. When talking CPUs, by far there are 2 main routes people tend to take: AMD or Intel. The general consensus is that Intel, although highly priced as compared to its competitor AMD, features lesser cores but more gaming performance as compared to the cheaper AMD, which handles multitasking like cheese. But if you were looking for a budget-friendly Intel build, then the Intel Core i5 9500F is a great option. With 6 cores and 6 threads, this well-balanced CPU will comfortably handle most of the games you throw at it. The processor clocks at a base speed of 3 GHz, featuring a max turbo frequency boost as high as 4.4 GHz. The unit takes in about 65 watts of power and supports DDR4 memory. The Intel Core i5-9500F was launched in mid-2019, and it does have the ability to handle most of the new releases at good enough settings. One drawback about this chip is that you can't overclock it. This means that it does boost up to 4.4 GHz, but you cannot overclock it. All in all, for a price range of $160 to $170, you can get your hands on this great processor from Intel. Number 2. AMD Ryzen 9 3900X. With the next CPU on our list, let's move into a higher price range with better specs and performance. The best part of the Ryzen 9 is that it costs the same as the latest Core i9 9900K, but it also comes with a Wraith cooler, as seen in the AMD top line, and it features more cores and threads. As we walk into big toy territory, the basic specifications just keep getting better. The AMD Ryzen 9 3900X comes with a staggering 12 cores and 24 threads. Just to put that in perspective, the number of cores on this CPU are equal to the number of threads that were on the Ryzen 5 2600X, first on our list. Each core also features much better overall performance, as the CPU's core tick at 3.8 GHz and then can max boost up to a crazy 4.6 GHz per core. In simpler words, whatever you throw at the CPU, it will handle. Due to the larger number of cores and threads connected to them, the CPU demands over 100 watts of power. But putting your SMPS through all just for powering the CPU is kind of justified. Here's why. When you pair this CPU with a decent graphics card, it will really elevate the performance of your machine. Unarguably, one of the best selling points of the AMD Ryzen 9 3900X is that apart from its ultimate gaming prowess, it doubles as one of the best multitasking CPUs out there. So whether you're running video editing or 3D rendering, or anything that requires more cores and multi-threaded performance from your machine, the AMD 3900X will be more than up to task. For a starting investment of $300, you can get this CPU to start building your dream gaming setup. Before we reveal number 1, we'd like to ask you to multitask a bit. Be a part of the Best Tech Today family and join us on our quest as we scour the internet to find the best tech for your needs and wants. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to never miss another quality tech video. Now that you're part of the family, let's let you in on number 1. Number 1. Intel Core i9 10900K. Intel's Core i9 10900K is by far the fastest gaming CPU you can buy on the market today. As for our second Intel feature on the list, this CPU does also feature a hefty price tag, and if you don't have upwards of $1,000 to spend on a monster PC build, you won't be able to unlock the sheer power of this monstrous CPU. What you can usually expect with Intel is a large bill, but make no mistake, there is no room for any flaws in performance. With a base clock of 3.7 GHz going upwards of a max clock of a staggering 5.3 GHz, this CPU isn't here to mess around. This 10th gen Intel processor features 10 cores and 20 threads, and damn, they are fast. If you install this CPU in your system, be assured that every time you benchmark or try to run the latest titles, the pressure will be on the other components like the GPU. Here's why. When you pay $600 plus on a CPU, the least it could do is outperform all your other components and run any title smoothly. The funny thing is, some people build budget gaming rigs for $500 today, but with the 10th Gen Core i9, you get just the CPU for $629. But one thing is certain, if you invest in this CPU, your gaming experience will be unparalleled. We now hope you know which CPU to invest in before you start building that epic gaming PC. So what did you think about our top 5 picks? Which CPU appealed to you the most? Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to the channel to Best Tech to be in the loop. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.